Hi, Naftali. Welcome back. That's my
Where's Rennie been?
Texas, Dallas, Texas for Bas Mitzvah.
Oh, Mazel Tov.
Thank you, thank you. But anyway, I'm back. I've been listening to the Shiurim on YouTube. You know, can't get away from Rabbi Smith.
We need to find a publisher, Rennie.
Publish it's okay. Forget about it. Forget about it. I have a good trash can. I'm a shameless box.
Okay.
So, Rabbi Smith, before we start, I have a question. I was thinking about this yesterday, this whole business about somebody who gives away all of his gifts when he's a shchiv, gives away everything when he's a shchiv meirah, but then he recovers.
Right.
And determine after the fact that those gifts were conditional on his really dying. So, you know, let's say I'm one of the gift recipients. I say, gee, that was really nice of Uncle Joe to give me this. You know what? I'm going to sell it. I need the money. I mean, how do you unwind these transactions? And have you ever had one of these at Beis Din?
I wasn't on anything like this, but if it's his, I mean, it's his.
I understand, but it's not like, you know, buying property where I'm supposed to do an investigation and find out if there's a lien on it.
Huh.
You just got a gift.
Right.
I just don't know how it works at the other end.
If you have a gift, then it is what it is. You can give it, you can sell it, you can keep it, whatever.
But then he doesn't die, and now I didn't know it was. I guess I'm supposed to know all along that it's a conditional gift.
Oh, so he doesn't die.
That's why I'm asking. You get a gift. I didn't know, huh?
You're saying it's a case of Bisha Ahmad. He recovers.
Yeah, yeah. That's the case I'm asking about. Sorry, I wasn't clear.
So when he recovers, so then if it wasn't all his property, then he gets it back.
Right, but it's a little hard to undo transactions once they've occurred.
Yeah, but in all of this Matna Shchiv Meirah, I think he only gets it Bachar Misa anyway.
Oh, it's all conditional. It's nothing given out now.
Yeah, so it's not now. So it's only
okay. That answers the question. Thank you.
if he remains ill and then he just passes away, then everything that was said goes into effect. If he recovers, then we have to see how he gave it. In all those states, you know, we have to.
That answered the question. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a related question. That's when it comes to Yesh, and someone's Miyash something, again, it's not everything, it's the one item he lost. All right, so it's Midas. It automatically is free and clear for anybody to have. Right?
It's years. That means someone loses an item.
Right,
and
he lost in the ocean or wherever it was, you know,
right.
He's Miyash if the person gets it. So why don't we bring that as a raya to the person who thought he was going to be, who was a shchiv meirah, gave only some items away because particular, just like the yesh on the one item, and that does go away. You know, why don't they get? Do they get those on food?
Yeah.
They do. Oh, yeah. So,
if it's
so
just
but
item.
why doesn't Gemara bring yesh as like an asmachta or raya?
Yeah, yesh is very unique. It only works when the object is not in the owner's possession. Hefker is something else. Hefker works when it is in your possession. Yesh works when it's not in your possession. So, okay, today we're going to start on Kuf Mem Ches, right? Kuf Mem Ches by Yiboilahu. That is 6 lines down, 7 lines down from the top. Is that correct? Am I in this spot? Okay, we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. This chesed of learning, we should have Beis Mikdash immediately. Learning Lili Nishmas, have a golden Basra Daf, and also for Shleima. Ben Sarah. Gets a little husband. Yeah, today's Chaf person, right?
It's
Chaf,
the
the
Rosh,
birthday of the
Rosh
Rebbe
Hashanah.
Rashab, right? When's the yahrzeit? Days Nisan. When's it?
Above- above my pay
That's my
grade.
kids. Yeah, they memorize these things.
It's also Melech Zwiebel's yahrzeit.
Oh. Melech Zwiebel was a mashpia in Marston. Yeah. Special, very special. A higher type person. Very, they're Heuben, they say in Yiddish. Okay. Iboilahu. Gemara asks a question. Dekel le'echad pirosav lachar mao. This is a complicated in the Rishonim, what exactly we're talking. I'll tell you the words. The words mean that if someone gives a palm tree to one person and he gives the fruits of the palm tree to someone else. So what's the halacha? Let's look at the words and then I'll tell you the options here of what's the context. Mishi yamakam peri eloi. Is he leaving the place of the fruits on the tree? In other words, when he gave it to the first person, did he retain the place where the fruits are going to grow because he gave the fruits to someone else afterwards? So is he leaving over the place of the fruits on the tree or not? Or is he giving that as well to the first person? Okay, now what are we talking about? So one way of learning this, the way the Rashbam wants to learn this, is that we're dealing with the Shchiv Mirah. And we were talking about before that if the Shchiv Mirah gives everything away, he doesn't leave anything, then if he recovers, then it all comes back, right? It's retraction. Or if he doesn't recover, then it's of course goes to the recipient. But if he does leave over, then it's a gift to the recipient, even if he recovers. It remains those statements remain intact. Because he didn't give everything. Now our question is, if someone gave to two people and he gave the tree, which is what he owned, and he gave the fruits to someone else, but because he gave the tree, because he it's sort of like a retraction. He's taking off. Did the first gift contain everything?
Right.
Or do we say that the first gift did not contain everything? So therefore the first person should acquire, right? First, because when he gave it, he didn't give everything. And so even though the guy, the person on his sick bed recovered, but so what? He didn't give everything. It's the second person that he gave the rest of it to. It's the second person that left him with nothing. But the first person, and we're going to learn on the next page that there's like some interesting things about how you separate person is distributing. There's different ways of distributing the properties.
About the tree, is it just a tree or the tree on the ground underneath?
It doesn't say. It's the tree. Anything attached to the ground is considered ground. Regarding this, when you're talking about you have to leave over karka, anything that's attached to the ground is okay. That's the way the Rashbam was learning it. That we're talking about. Is the Shchiv Mirah giving everything to the first person, or is he leaving over some things that he's not giving? And then the question is, if he recovers, what's going to happen? Taisvis, on the other hand, he said that this is considered. We're going back to the case that we were discussing before. We were talking about if someone says, you could live in my house, or you could eat the fruits of my tree. Is that considered like he gave anything? the fruits of my tree is a davar shlei b'lo'olam, right? We said that what he said was nothing. You can't do that with a bari. You can't do that with a matna shchivira, with someone ill. So now the question is, if he does this in such a way, when he gives him here the fruits of the tree, is he giving him the place where the fruits grow as well, which would mean like there's a basis for it? It's not davar shlei b'lo'olam or not? Is he giving him just the fruits?
And they say in English that Tosfos said giving the parts of the branches.
Parts of the branches, that spot where
Yeah.
it's growing. Okay.
Here, like if he gives like just a tree, like the land, wouldn't it be considered like he thinks that he's gonna recover? He's not giving over like everything.
You were saying that's what he owned. That's what he owned. We're talking about that here. This is what he owned. We're not talking about he has nothing left, right?
So in this example, it turns out there are three things, right? There's the tree, there are branches, and there's fruit.
Yeah.
I was struggling yesterday to try to figure out what this adds to what we've already learned.
Yeah.
Confusion.
Well, I'm already confused. I don't need help.
So it goes like this. Mi shiur makim peri Ilai shiur. Is he leaving over when he gives to the when he gives to the first person? Is he retaining the place of the fruit or the place where the fruit grows from, the makim peri, which we're calling the branches, or Ilai shiur? Is he not leaving that out of the first person's gift? Imtim talei mala achar le'avishir. Okay, now this is another complicated piece of how to read the following Gemara. If we say there's different girsais, the Bach and the Rashbam, and I think he's like a Rabbeinu Hananel or something. If we say that when you're giving it to someone else, you're not leaving anything over. You're giving him everything, giving the first person even the branches. So let's take it like the one of the girsais. I can't remember who. Maybe the Bach's girsa. La'atzmai mahu. I'm adding in the word mahu. What if he's retaining it for himself? He's giving him the tree and retaining the fruits for himself. And then there's another girsa which goes a little differently. It goes, chutz mepireisav mahu. If he says the words except for the fruits, which is similar to la'atzmai, right? Amar Rava, Amar Rav Nachman. Rava says in the name of Rav Nachman, Imtim Talaymar Dekalecha Lehavishir Makamperi. If we say that when he's giving to two people, one person gets the tree, one person gets the fruits. The second person does not get the place of the fruits because the place of the fruits, the branches, is a gift for the first person. Then Dekel Le'echad B'Shir Preisav Lefanov. However, if he gives the tree to one person, but he retains for himself the fruits, and he's not giving them to someone else, he's keeping them, then Shir Makamperi. Then for himself, he's keeping it. My time, what's the reason? When it comes to yourself, you're very generous. So even though he's just keeping the fruits, but he's also keeping the place of the fruits. And so how would this play out? Well, it depends what the context of the question was. Then like the Rashbam or like Taisus, but whatever the case is, now it seems that he's keeping part of the property, and therefore, if he recovers, the gift that he gave is a gift. Yeah, because an ill person that gives a gift, but not all his property, it's considered a gift even if he recovers.
Here they say that except for the fruits are deleted by the bargain.
It's sheer la'atzmai. They're deleting it because of the following Gemara. It's the same meaning, because sheer la'atzmai means he leaves it for himself. You'll see in the next Gemara why they didn't want to discuss that beforehand. Amalei Rababa or Ravashi. Rababa says to Ravashi, Anan, us, Adar Reb Shimon ben Lakish Masninallah. You learned this Gemara about that case, Shrimira and all of that. It's actually, we learned this Gemara about a different case. Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Reb Shimon ben Lakish taught the following. If someone sells a house to his friend, you tell you initially, I'm selling you only the lower floor. The upper floor, the attic, that I'm keeping. Well, do you tell the initially? He keeps the upper floor. They had a question. Now, let me just throw this in. It's going to come up, but let me just throw this in. That there was the explanation over there in that Gemara. What they were discussing was there's certain ownerships of the courtyard. When he gives it, when he sells the bottom floor of the house, he's also giving that person the place in the courtyard. When he's keeping the upper floor, is he keeping for himself a place in the courtyard as well? So it depends. If he says, except for, if he adds in the words, I'm not selling you the upper floor, why is he adding that in? Because he's trying to retain a place in the courtyard as well. What can he do in the courtyard? He can spread out beams from his property that could go into the courtyard, which he can hang things on. Right? His clothing. Yeah, but I'm not sure about it. It's the lower floor, the lower part of the courtyard. I think belongs to the lower floor. He's talking about getting usage of the courtyard in the upper area, and that's what it sounded like.
Discussion like if someone lived on the second floor and the upper floor, then the floor get collapsed.
But yeah, that was another discussion. This was when he says chutz. He adds in the word except for. When he adds that word in, so why are you adding that word in? You didn't sell that anyway. You're adding it in, you're coming to add something that you're trying to keep. So they have a question now. He sells the house to one person. This is the same Gemara that we had before, where like superimposing it on top of this other Mishnah that we had about selling a house. Okay. And there was the Gemara before that was about the fruits and the tree and the branches. Now we're talking about on the house. If he sells the house to one person and he sells the upper floor to someone else, is the person that is that area in the courtyard where you can spread out beams to be able to hang things on. When he sold the first courtyard, did he sell him everything, including what would be, well, it's not selling or maybe giving or selling it, it doesn't matter. But is he giving him also that place in the courtyard that would belong to the upper floor or not? It's the place of the beams. If you say that you didn't do that, when you gave it to the recipient of the lower floor, you gave him only that area. And the recipient of the higher floor, that means that you gave him not just the lower, you also gave him the area of the beams. You did not retain it. So chutz mediyuta mahu. What happens if you use the word chutz? Except for. So when we said that when you add in that extra word, you're coming to emphasize that you're giving him just that and not those other things that come along with it, which is the area of the beams. Amar Rava, that's the question. Chutz mediyuta mahu. What happens if he uses the word chutz? Amar Rav Nachman, and now Rava says the name of Rav Nachman, which is like a copy of the last Gemara. If you say that when you give it to one person and the upper floor to another person, the first person is getting everything. You're not leaving over anything for the upper floor. Chutz mediyuta havishir. But if you use the word chutz, then it is leaving something over for the upper floor. And this goes according to the explanation of Rav Zvid, who's the one that said this. Alma. You see from this, given the sheer due to makam zizin, given the sheer due to makam zizin nami sheer, given the sheer due to. It's like given the sheer diuta. Since he said chutz midiuta, since he used the word chutz, so makam zizin nami sheer. So the place of the beams he's also leaving over
for himself. For the first floor.
For himself, yeah.
We had learned before, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I think it was a share that you had been given, that if there was a public courtyard, let's say a running path, all right, in front of someone's house a little bit. And then they tended, I don't remember exactly, I told maybe someone, they were like close to the path to the house, that he could still extend his house with an awning, and they would have to like move the walking path to the outskirts or this. In other words, it seems he always has a right to that swale part of his house to extend the awning or we learned something like that,
Okay.
which would corroborate.
The reason I said I didn't understand what was added by this sugya is that I'm remembering when we learned that when someone gifts or sells something, he does it with a good eye. There's
Right.
that whole discussion about you sell your property but keep the well. Does it mean you've kept a path to the well and so forth? And that's why I didn't understand this. But is this different because it's about gifting to different people and that was about selling or gifting? I'm trying to understand, why is this different from what we did before?
The difference over here is that it's a combination of what we had before together with what we're learning now. We're combining this together. We're saying that what we learned before about the way a person gives, is it by in yafa, the way a person retains, does he retain for himself with the general? Now we're using this to the laws of shchid. Is he keeping something for himself, which means that when he recovers, the gift that he gave doesn't come back to him.
Wouldn't a person always have a ayin yafa for himself?
Yeah, that's what we're learning over here. He does have the ayin yafa. That's what our Gemara is telling us. Now, even though you may have known this before, but the fact that it's in this new context, that's the significance of it. That now it's the shchid that's changing the way the gift works based on that Gemara before. Okay, Amar Rab Yosef bar Minyumi, Amar Rab Nachman. Rab Yosef bar Minyumi says the name of Rab Nachman. Shchim Mira, I skipped the parentheses before. Shchim Mira shekasav kol nechasav la'acherim. If a person gives everything away, he is on a sick bed, he gives everything away. So Royim im b'machalik. We have to take a look. How did he do this? If he did it in a way that he's just distributing everything, you take this, you take that, you know, he's got everything worked out, and so he does one thing at a time, but he's saying, you're going to take this, you're going to take this, you know, like that. So then Mace, if he passes away, kanakulam, and everyone that was the recipient will acquire. Ahmad, if he recovers, then chayzer b'kulam, then he's retracting from all of that because he gave away everything, even though he gave away one thing at a time. But it was clear that he was distributing it all. That was. However, in Benimlach, if he was just giving one item, he wasn't giving everything. And then later on, he decided to change and give something else. So this was a piecemeal. No, it wasn't. He was distributing everything. It was the nimlach, means that he's rethinking. Yeah. So then, Mace, if he passes away, kanukulam, everyone acquires whatever they got. Ahmad, if he recovers, the only one he can retract from is from the last one that left him with nothing. Because everyone else, when those were given as gifts that he wasn't planning on. It wasn't. It was a real non-revocable. Irrevocable.
Had always something.
He always had something for himself. He always retained something for himself. So that everything else was irrevocable until the last one, where he said, "Where that one would come back."
It's like one day, like one statement.
Yeah, exactly. What makes it? What's the criteria to be if it's mechalik or nimlach? I'm not 100% sure. Let's take a look. The idea here is, Reb Naftali, are the Yarshim going to get anything? That's because everything is being given out only after he passes away anyway. So the question is, the Yarshim are going to show up at the end and they're going to say, my father recovered after that last illness when he did this. And he gave us a good, we had some good times after that. And so therefore, what he said in that statement should now go to us instead of you. That's the way this play out. Well, okay, Ahmad, the Gemara asks, 1 second. How do you know that he was really Nimlach? Maybe this whole thing was this contemplation of, I'm giving everything out, and I'm just not sure who I'm giving it to. So maybe this whole thing, why are you saying that nothing comes back? Maybe this was all one big gift, one big distributing everything, and it was just taking his time. So the Gemara says, Stama de Shchiv Mira, Medak Daik Badiyar. Shchiv Mira, someone's on his deathbed. He has everything figured out already. If he's only giving one thing today, it's probably because that's all he's giving. And then he'll rethink it, and he'll give something else tomorrow. But this was what his intention for today. Remember that book, Tuesday with Maury?
Great book.
Yeah, he had everything worked out. There was someone that he had a professor that had ALS. Is that what it's called? ALS. And
What's the ALS?
Amyotrophic. Who guarantees this?
Yeah. So he had a lot of time to think about his dying, and he had everything worked out. Okay. Amar Rav Acha bar Minumi, Amar Rav Nachman. So Rav Acha bar Minumi says the name of Rav Nachman Shchimira. It wasn't a Jewish book, by the way. The guy was Jewish, of course, right? Maury Schwartz or something. It wasn't. It's not a Jewish book.
What's the name of it? Tuesday?
With Maury.
Tuesday with Maury.
What was the other book?
About the same person had a book.
Yeah. There were other books like that. Good books.
Yeah, it's a quality book. Amar Rav Nachman Shchimira shekasav kol nechasav la'acherim says like this: someone on his deathbed that he writes everything over to others. He's giving everything out, he's distributing all his property. But Ahmad, and then he recovers. So Eina Chayzer doesn't go back to him. It's contrary to everything that we learned, right? Doesn't go. He gave everything out. Why? Maybe he has some. They call that the property that the government has it in holding somewhere. It's not confiscated.
No,
it's
like unclaimed.
unclaimed. Yeah, some unclaimed property somewhere. So how do you know? Maybe there's this unclaimed account that he has somewhere. He forgot about it. Unclaimed property. So Nachman says it can't come back because he has this property somewhere else. We're talking about karka, I think. So what do you do? This Mishnah contradicts what we're learning. The practicality of this halacha contradicts how to apply what we learned in the Mishnah.
5 people you meet in heaven. That was the other.
Oh, that was
book
the
he
other
wrote. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Rich album. He wrote a bunch of books, but that one was good.
We'll have to look for that. Okay, so Elamasnisin Diktani, Laishir Karka, Kolsho, Ein Matnasa Kemas, but the Mishnah that says that if you don't leave over any karka, so then it's not a good gift. Yeah, if he recovers. So how does that going to apply? We should always suspect the application of it is going to be like irrelevant, because you should always suspect that maybe there's a property somewhere that you don't know about. Rav Chama says, "Ba'imer kol nechasai." You know when that would apply? If he uses the term "all my property." He uses the term "all my property," so then he said all. So even those unclaimed whatever, those things that are somewhere else, he gave that as well. But that would be the way that we could apply the Mishnah. Mar Baravat, that was Rav Chama. What's that days over there? Mar Baravashi Amar, Mar Baravashi says, B'muchsaklan, the less like. We've established that he doesn't have. We know that he doesn't have. Okay. We know that he doesn't have any other property, so then we'll apply the Mishnah that says he gave everything. Okay. We have a question. Chazara b'miktas havi chazara b'kula elai. It's a very interesting Gemara. But what happened over here is he gave everything away. Then he comes back and he says, the way it works with wills, with the daitaki, which is what's called the daitaki? Yeah. Right? The daitaki. It says daitaki mevatelis daitaki. That one will cancels the previous will. So you can keep editing the will. You just another one, another. It's not like, oh, but you have to look at the date over here to see what. So he gave everything away. Then he says, oh, property number this, I'm giving to someone else. He gave everything, let's say, to one person. Then he retracts. He says, property number this, I'm giving to someone else. So what does that mean about everything that he did in the first daitaki, in the first will? Does it mean that he's retracting from the entire first will, or is he just retracting from one property? There's a major one will has a list of 10 properties that he's distributing. Second will has one property that's going to someone totally not in the first one. So is the second will means that there's one property that's going to Shimon or something, and the inheritors get everything else? Or they say no, because that wasn't itemized in that all those other properties wasn't. So we'll have to look at the first will. So this is a question. Chazar b'mikzav chazar b'kula elai. Does it retract from everything or not? Tashamasa, come and listen. Kulan l'rishon miktasan l'sheni. He gave everything to the first person, and then he retracts and he gives something to the second person. Right? He gave everything to Reuven, and he gives item number whatever to Shimon. Sheni kana, the second person acquires, and Rishon leikana, the first person doesn't acquire. My love, we're not talking about Bishames when he died. We're talking about that the entire will, the entire first will is just void because he made a second will with only one item in it. And so the inheritors get the rest. Where it says Loi, that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about Bisha Ahmad. The first person, he gave everything to, so when he recovers, he gets nothing. The second person, he gave just one property to, so then second person will acquire. So Chinam Mistabra, don't ask any questions. The Gemara is going to ask the obvious question in a second. Hold on. Chinam Mistabra, it also is logical, Midakani Seifa, because it says, further on, it says, Miktasan Larishan, Vakulan Lasheni. The Seifa says that if you give some of the items to the first one, and you give everything else to the second one, right? So Rishon Kana, Sheni like Kana, the first person acquires, the second person doesn't acquire. Now, why should the second person not acquire? It must be, if you say it's talking about when he recovered, then everything works where fits perfectly. Mishamachi, Sheni like Kana, the second person doesn't acquire, because the rule is that when you recover, when the person recovers, if he distributed everything, he gets it back. Because it was that umdana, right? There was an assumption that why did he give it was only because he thought he was dying. He didn't die, so he gets it back. But if you say it's talking about when he died, so tavaya likno. So what's the difference if he gave everything to the second one? Right? They should both acquire it because he died. That was what he did. It must be we're talking about Bisha Ahmad, that the Reisha is talking about Bisha Ahmad, the Sefer is talking about Bisha Ahmad when he recovered. And what we learned over here was that when you retract from the that when you gave the second one, right? When you gave the second one, we said it's not that if it would be Bishames, then that would tell me that when you gave the second one, you retracted from the first one, and that's why the second one acquires, the first one doesn't acquire because it was a retraction. But here we're not saying that. Here we're saying that it's Bisha Ahmad, so it's the second one that's right. The second one is not gonna Tashma, Sheni Kana, the second one acquires, and the first one doesn't acquire. Because the first one he gave everything to. Now, the first will had contained everything. Amar le Rav Yemer le Rav Ashi. Rav Yemer says to Rav Ashi, the obvious question. To heavy nami b'shamad. Let's say it's the way you're saying it, that he's recovering. And what was the case? He gave everything to the first person, he retracted, and he gave something different to the second person. He gave one item to the second person. If you say that retracting from one item is considered that you're retracting from everything, and the second will cancels the first will entirely, I know the sheni miyaskana. That's why the second person should acquire, because he left over for himself everything else besides for that one property. But if you say that the second will doesn't cancel everything in the first will, it only changes that one item, so then what he's doing here is he's giving item 1, 2, 3 to Ruvain, 4 to Shimon, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to Ruvain, but that's a regular distributing of all his property. So even b'sha'amad, no one should acquire, because if b'sha'amad, when he recovers, everything comes back. What did we gain by this? It's sort of like you learn. The only way to learn this Gemara is to learn it fast. What do they say? You have 2/10 for a 5. To do that quickly, or else basically the answer that we gave doesn't fit. So the Gemara says v'hilchasa. The halacha here is chazara b'miktas. When he retracts from one item, havi chazara b'kula. He's retracting from everything. And what would happen now is that the rest of the property would go to the inheritors, not to the people that he distributed to, because he switched one item from the first will. You basically have to redo the whole will if you want to retract. Yeah, that's what you'd have to do. Then you get the charge for that. It's basically so Reisha Mishkachasla. So the first part of the mission is Bein Shemeis Bein She'amad. Doesn't matter if he died or whether he recovered, because he retracted from everything. So the first person doesn't get. It's only the second person that gets. Seifa, the second part, like Mishkachasla B'Sha'amad, it would only be possible if it's when he stood. Now let me just go over the Seifa. The Seifa said, if he's giving some things to the first one, but everything to the second one. So the halacha was the first one acquires, the second one doesn't acquire. So we're talking about b'sha'amad. When he recovers, because he gave away everything for the second person, so then when he recovers, the second person doesn't get it. But the first person, he only gave him one item, and that was like a different day. So that was the second person got everything else. So that was an everything. That was a one item. So when he recovers, the one item is irrevocable. Ibailahu, there's a question. Hikdish kol nechasav v'amad mahu. What happens if he was makdish everything? Do we say that when he's makdish it, he has the same intentions? I thought we had this Gemara before.
We had something.
Does he have the same intentions that he never would have? His whole intention here was just because he thinks he's dying. But if he would recover, then he wouldn't want to do that, or maybe not. Do we say that it's for hektish? It's a good deed. He's not. He has no stipulations, implied stipulations in this. 1 second. It's himself involved. He's not taking away his own things, so he's not giving that. What happens if he's mafkir everything? So here, do we say why is hefker? This is like similar to hektish. Yeah, do we say that he really is not interested in it? because he's mafkir. Some sort of he's moving on in life. Doesn't want any these possessions. He's no gashmias. He's giving it to everyone else. Dilma kol gabe nafshe like but for himself he wouldn't do that. He only did it because he thought he was dying. Let's say he gives everything to tzedakah. We say by tzedakah, he's for sure giving it. This is they say like when you give to if someone gives these wealthy people, they give their write these wills, so then the organization starts praying that they die. So it's not may not be
It's like the opposite of the
with the Kohen Gadol. Right. So yeah, that's why you have to, when the Kohen Gadol dies, they go free.
right.
That's why the mother would bake cakes for the person, right?
It's, I don't remember, but I remember it's something with the Kohen.
Yeah. So, or do we say that regarding himself, he wouldn't, even for the tzedakah, he doesn't want to give it away. So let's leave it over here. It's left as a question. Okay. We're going to start from Amar Rav Sheshes, not the other stuff.
So we're still just adopting.
Yeah. Tonight I'm not going to be able to learn. So.
With another possible stuff.
Yeah.
Better than